What is up, everyone? Dan the Cardman back again. I hope you all are doing very, very well. Now, this is my Collector Con vlog, as you can guess by the title. You're going to see footage of me in a second walking around this show and buying a bunch of pretty cool collectibles. This is my kind of show, to be honest. These are the things I love the most because it's not just sports cards, it's not just trading cards, there's comic books, there's figurines, there's other action figures, there's all these other random collectibles that some of these things you may not have seen since you were a kid. So you're going to see this as I walk around. You're not going to hear probably too much talking from me. It's just purely had a GoPro on my chest, walked around the show. You'll see me flicking through a few things. So I hope you do enjoy it. Once you're done with the vlog, we'll get through to the pickups at the end of this. So stay tuned. This is exactly what I came to look at.
What? Oh, the vintage cards.
Yeah.
Are you looking for specific cards? You need up.
Just see what that will be more selling.
I saw. Yeah, I see them, babe.
This one's another good
Jordan and LeBron.
That's sick.
Friday, so 2 days ago. It's only a special release from the US, UK, and Canada. Pokemon set.
I was looking at LeBron. Yeah, I'm fast, babe. Rebecca, back. Can I just leave that with you for 1 second? Is it all right? Yes. Thank you. Do you happen to have any, is it Dark Nebula books? Like the Aussie comic? Good, how are you?
Good. After anything specific, any sport? No,
I'm just having a look, yeah.
Sweet.
Do you have any Select Euro?
Yes.
There's one here at the
we
front.
do.
Be 140 or what? Nah, yeah. If it was a PSA 9, I'd be keen to sort of, get closer to comps, but when it's PSA 8, it's a bit harder to sell as well.
So 140 cents good to get it. Sweet.
Yeah, 7s and 8s now just become so, because there's so many of them going around now. Yeah.
Were they still game used in 2019? The patches, they were, yeah.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah.
That would have been the end of it because COVID came on December 19th.
They started doing it a bit earlier as well, like for odd sets here and there. Yeah.
No, that definitely says something.
Yeah.
The one with the Team Lego on the back, that's your third signature.
Why?
Make money.
Oh, well, other than the obvious, but it just doesn't make any sense.
No, well, when you remember when I only had the one signature card, when I used to
Yeah,
only one
you had a sensation or you had a younger.
yeah,
That was it.
with the sensation. And then the small quantities he gets, the shipping. You have to bring in a color load or something like that. And I don't know whether you have enough to mark.
Back in the man cave. So I hope you did like that. I walked around the show. Like I said, there wasn't much of me talking. I just didn't have my mic ready to go that day. So I hope you liked what you saw. Let me know what your thoughts were on that kind of show. Like I said at the very start, I love those kind of shows, right? Being able to walk around and just look at comic books, trading cards, action figures, all this sort of stuff in one place is awesome for me because, you know, I've got my finger on the pulse in multiple collections, as you can see behind me, multiple hobbies. So having the opportunity to find some really niche things all in one place is fantastic. There was a few things that I saw at this show that, you know, I hadn't seen since I was a kid, and that's a really awesome experience to go through. I absolutely love these kinds of shows. This show was actually fantastic. It was much better than the Collector Con that I attended out in Penrith, you know, a few months earlier where I did have a table. This show was popping off a lot better than that one was. And it also appeared to have a lot more variety, and it was basically my kind of show. I could not have had much more fun in the hour or 2 hours that I actually spent there. I picked up some, you know, pretty cool things. So let's get through those now. There's two comic books here first up. Now, touched on this in the past. I'm a pretty big comic book collector. I don't have too much these days because I sold a lot of it when I bought my house. But I try and pick up what I can when I can, right? And this is a pretty cool one. This is a Judge Dredd comic book. It is $1. It cost me $1. It's not the best condition. It's not anything rare or anything like that. I just like the cover. It's got Judge Death on the front of it, and those are some of my favorite Judge Dredd story arcs, to be honest. If you're not aware what Judge Dredd actually is, other than the movies, it was either a weekly or bi-weekly or maybe even monthly comic book. I can't remember right now, called 2000 AD, where you had, you know, short stories that continued on with each other, you know, on a monthly, fortnightly basis, as an example. So you would buy this 2000 AD comic and you'd see multiple characters in there, and then you would move along each month to follow that storyline of Judge Dredd, but you'd also see some other stories happening with other characters at the same time. Now, Judge Dredd is pretty cool because that comic, I think, started in the 60s, and it's still going now, and Judge Dredd is actually aging in real time. So he's a young man here, but as if you were to read the book today, he'd be an old man. And it's a pretty cool one. The artwork of this stuff is freaking awesome. Like, it's such a cool comic book run. You can see Judge Death there. He's absolutely batshit crazy. Pretty cool comic book. So if you want to know more about this, please check out Mr. H Reviews on YouTube, because he does some pretty cool narrations of some key stories of Judge Dredd and Judge Death. And I'm stuttering a lot, so please bear with me. But he's pretty cool to listen to. He's got a British accent, but his voice just does so freaking well for this kind of thing. So I'll put a link down below. Listen to it, because if you're a fan of Judge Dredd, you're going to love it, right? And even if you're not, you're going to love it, because he does a fantastic job, so please check it out. Now, the other comic book I picked up from the same seller is an Aussie comic book. Some of you may not be interested in this, but it's called Dark Nebula. It's from the late 80s, early 90s. I've got most of this run, but this was one of those ones that I was missing. It is number 3. It's in pretty poor condition. It cost me $5, not 80 cents. I wish it cost me 80 cents. But this is written by a guy named Tad Petrowski, who lives locally to me here in Australia. Okay, not the best condition, but these are quite hard to find, right? Because basically the print runs were quite low. It wasn't super popular like it was here in Australia, but not really at the same time. The print runs, like I said, were tiny. So anytime you can find it, you know, is good. Grab it where you can because it is quite rare. Not many people appreciate it, but someone like me does. It was actually pretty interesting because the guy didn't have any indication that he had that, right? And me seeing this Judge Dredd comic book along with all the others basically said to me, let's just ask this guy a question if he's got any. I don't know what triggered me to ask the question, but he had only one, and it's the one I needed and grabbed. Now, I picked up also, you know, a few trading cards, and I think I did pretty well on these. And there's one in particular that I want to show you at the end that I think is a very, very good buy. But I'm not sure I mentioned at the start, my main goal for this was to try and pick up some rugby league cards. I don't have too many vintage rugby league cards. I want to try and build up my collection of Parramatta players, basically get every Parramatta player from the first set, which was 1963 up until I think I want to get up to 1990 the year I was born, basically, just to build up that collection and then look to expand to other players. Now, this one is not a Parramatta player, but it is a Parramatta player in image, so I picked it up for that just to try and bundle up. I think there's 35 or 36 cards here. I paid $50 Australian, so about $1.45 each card, I want to say. And basically the price that I got those for is really, really cool considering how old some of these are. And if you look at eBay, I definitely paid well below comps. Like, yes, the condition of these is poor, but I definitely paid way under, probably even less than half, right? Half of half I could have paid, right? Is what it looks like. So I did really, really well. And this was my main goal to find them, so I was very happy that I did. So these are from, you know, various years. I'm not going to go through them in detail because I don't want to bore you, but as you can see, the condition of these, you know, is pretty poor. I think these are like 83, I want to say, or 84, and then these ones here are 83, but someone can correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not super big on these sets. You can see some of the cards do have backs to them, where they give you some stats on the player itself, tells you their weight, their height, their points they've scored, basically a fun fact about that player. But what you'll also find for some of the later sets and some of the earlier sets is they didn't have checklists. They just had images on the back where you make one giant image of like a scene from a game or something along those lines. Now, like I said, these are pretty cool to add to the collection because they are quite rare. One thing I do want to mention about Australian cards that some of you may not know is that, you know, our first rugby league set, I think, was 1963. And as I keep showing you these, you can see the condition is poor, right? And I think that's because, you know, we had sets, trading cards come to Australia, like I said, late and early 60s, okay? So by the time kids got to the 80s, they really hadn't been collecting cards for that long. Whereas in America, I believe you guys had baseball cards in the, you know, 40s and 50s. So a good 10, 15, 20 years earlier than what we had here in Australia. So by the time you guys got to the 80s and you had your Michael Jordan cards, kids started to keep those in condition. They started to keep those in books and look after them a little bit more. Whereas, you know, even though it's the same era in terms of the 80s as an example, or late 70s, trading cards were new for kids at that time period. So they didn't really look after them as well as maybe the kids in the US did. So that's just worth keeping in mind. Some cards here, I think these are from 80 or 79. Actually, these three might be from 79, which are quite old. And you can sort of see some pretty cool imagery, right? Yes, they're not the best condition, but you can see some pretty cool crowds and blokes that are about to kill each other. Now, to give you some context, you know, footy back then was very, very rough. You guys might watch rugby now and say, guys, you guys are mental, no pads, you're trying to kill each other. Go watch footage of rugby league from the, you know, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and you're going to see guys that are like literally trying to kill each other. They're dropping elbows, they're punching each other on the ground. It was feral, but it's also a good watch, so please check it out. I also picked up these two stickers. They were $3 each, but again, part of that total amount that I showed you a bit earlier. Both still stuck to the back. They're not the best condition, they're actually quite poor. I don't expect these to do too well, but I got them, you know, to send to SGC because I want them graded to put on my shelf. They're not the best, but that's the kind of PC stuff that I am after. So hope you do appreciate that look down memory lane for rugby league cards. Now, the absolute buy of the day, in my opinion, is this. It is, you know, what the hobby considers the Nirvana rookie card. Now, this is from 1995. I picked this up for $9 Australian, which was an absolute steal, about $5 or $6 US, I want to say, maybe even a little bit less. Comps on these are like $40, $50 US. So I got this for a really, really cool buy. You know, it looks really good as well. The centering looks quite good. The back looks fairly decent. It's a little bit off-centered, but nowhere near as bad as what I've seen in the past. And the surface is not too bad either. If I get a quick black light, you can see that there's not too many scratches either. And I can see more on person than I can on camera because the camera's not picking it up. You can sort of see some stuff there near Kurt's hair. But again, that's not too bad. So I think you should do pretty well in terms of grading. I'm not going to sell it. I'm going to get it graded by SGC because I think it'll look cool in one of their tuxedo slabs and put it on my shelf because I'm a huge fan of Nirvana, as I'm sure most of you are as well. I'm a big fan of the Foo Fighters as well, so having Dave Grohl there is pretty cool. So this will be interesting to see, like I said, how well it grades. But that was a pretty cool buy. And it's one of those quick tips I want to give to you all right now, right? Where, like, I'm not too big on stickers. I do watch a lot of breakout cards. And so he's the one who told me that the hobby considers this as the rookie card, but there's actually a much rarer one that is the true rookie card. But he collects things like this, and me watching his videos got me into like keeping an eye out for this kind of stuff. And that's why it's good to sort of, you know, step outside your comfort zone with regards to your collectibles to try and get a better understanding, because you can then find deals like this at a card show that you may have missed in the past, but now you know. So even if you don't want to keep the card, you can pay $9 for it, sell it for $50, and then you've made, you know, $41 to then fund a PC card as an example for you, or because you've had a bit more of an understanding as to what's actually happening. Now this one's actually pretty interesting because I watched a bunch of content from Kurt's cards when I was doing my video on him about the cleaning service and whether or not it's okay, and he actually posted this in one of his videos. So I was like, that's pretty cool. So when I saw it, I looked into it, and then lo and behold, 2 days later I attend a card show and one shows up here in Australia, which is freaking mental in the first place. But the fact that, you know, I saw it and then 2 days later I saw it in person and bought it, you know, it is pretty cool, and I've got a pretty cool card for my collection. So let me know if you guys have ever done anything like that yourself, where you've done a bit more research and all of a sudden something that you weren't necessarily looking for all of a sudden falls on your plate and it's a must buy, because at $9, this is a huge buy for me, and I'm very happy to have that in the PC. So that's sort of it for this video. I hope you did enjoy it. Apologies if I, you know, took too long. Let me know what your thoughts are around this kind of vlog. Yes, I didn't speak. I'll try and speak, you know, as I'm walking around a bit more in the next one. This was sort of like a last minute thing, but again, I wanted to give you guys some insights into buying in a card show. So I hope you guys got some good footage at the table, seeing some pretty cool things. Like I said, let me know your thoughts, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.